Hi, my name is Natalie Lamagna, and I will be talking about phosphorus adsorption to iron precipitates from abandoned mine drainage. So unfortunately, the relationship between contaminants from abandoned mine drainage with nutrients from municipal wastewater is understudied, though it's known that phosphorus in the form of phosphate can adsorb onto iron precipitates, such as iron hydroxide, and it's this adsorption that we were interested in for the study. And on the right is a mesh-covered tile that had been placed in a stream and had collected sediments from abandoned mine drainage over time. So our prediction was that the amount of phosphorus adsorbed by iron precipitates on the mesh depends on the amount of phosphorus they had already adsorbed. So what we did was we placed tiles that were covered in mesh in 4-mile run stream for a week, and the 3 locations were chosen relative to where wastewater had been entered the stream. So the AMD site was upstream from where the wastewater had entered. That AFMWW site for after municipal wastewater was directly next to where it entered, and the mixed site was downstream from where the wastewater had entered the site. There were 3 tiles at each site, and each site, we collected water samples to measure phosphorus and phosphate concentrations. So there are 4 experiments for each piece of mesh. So the first experiment was adding 100 milliliters of wastewater with the mesh. Second was adding wastewater with AMD. And the third was mixing the wastewater with synthetic AMD. And the absorbed phosphorus concentrations at the end of the experiments were compared with expected phosphorus concentrations based on the field samples to determine the percent phosphorus removed. And the last experiment was digesting the mesh to see how much phosphorus was adsorbed on the mesh to begin with. Overall, we can see that the site that removed the least amount of phosphorus in comparison to the other 2 sites was the AFMWW site. Interestingly, this was the same site that had the most amount of phosphorus concentrated on the mesh. So from our results, we found that the site directly after where the wastewater had entered the stream was where there was the most phosphorus concentrated on this mesh, and this caused there to be less phosphorus removed from the solution when using this mesh in the experiment. So this phosphorus removal can have an effect on ecosystems since organisms depend on phosphate for nutrients. Also, there are problems associated with phosphate concentrations if they get too high, such as eutrophication, but phosphorus adsorption cannot solve this because sometimes the sediments may be carried downstream and released later. So there needs to be further study to understand where this phosphorus is going and to continue as abandoned mine drainage remediation efforts. Thank you for listening.